start the session. So hi everyone, thank you for joining. And I think we circulated the meeting invite only yesterday, and we had about 80 odd registrations, and half of them are here. So hopefully more of them will join during the session. So I know Kalyan for almost 30 years now. So we were batchmates at IIT. Kalyan took a very non-traditional route. From IIT, he joined an NGO. Then he started a restaurant. Then he was the team that launched a Rock Street Journal in India. So he used to go around colleges organizing rock shows. Then he thought, let me get serious. So went to IIM Calcutta, majored in marketing. Joined CIFI to set up their games division. On mobile, Virgin Mobile, he was part of the team. So if any of you are old enough to remember those quirky ads of Virgin, so Kalyan was part of the team. And then he was with Games 24/7. And after that, it's been like an entrepreneurial journey since then. For the last 7 years, he has been doing influencer marketing. And over the last 3 years, he's also built a product, which we will show towards the end of today's call. But that's in brief about Kalyan. So somebody who's been across industries, somebody who's been in influencer marketing for the last 7 years. So over to you, Kalyan. And if you have any questions, you can raise your hand, and we'll pick it up when we have a appropriate time slot. Yeah. So Kalyan, over to you.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone, and TGIF. This conversation has kind of this entire gathering happened also largely because of the technology that I'll talk about, and I'll try to get to that as quickly as possible because it really opens up a lot of people's minds to what is possible and how to approach influencer marketing using data. The platform is called Klug Tech. But before that, I'll do a quick primer on influencer marketing. There's a lot of stuff that's happening. There's a lot of conversations. There are a lot of startups raising money on influencer marketing. There's a lot of brands spending a lot of money. And incidentally, a lot of sciencing it is going on by a lot of the D2C brands, the Thrasio model brands that have come up from, let's say, Global Beast to Purple, including the big e-commerce platforms. Everyone's exploring affiliate models and performance models and influencer to commerce models. So there's a lot going on. It's too much to cover. So I'll do a very quick breeze through because some of you may be very familiar. Some of you may not be so familiar. So what I'll do is I'll just talk about influencer marketing. The lens will be subjective to my way of looking at it and to my philosophy in terms of social catalyzers philosophy. So there are two firms being discussed today, a managed service model, which is social catalyzers, which I've been running for the last 6.5, 7 years. And there's the technology platform that's a global play that allows you to look at influencer marketing through a very precise data lens. So with that, I'll just start sharing my screen and everyone can now see my screen, my entire thing. So I'll just get started. So just sticking to where's the influencer marketing and what is the science that we're going to talk about, we're going to give some layers about a lot of Me Too influencer marketing has been going on. And by many brands, a lot of brands are entering it saying that let's also do influencer marketing. Some of the questions that we put forth before we get into that is, you already have paid media that allows you to do crazy things like control your audience, find them, give them the number of ads. All sorts of KPIs are beautifully controlled using paid media, and 90% of most spends by most brands is in that space. So what we're saying is, how is the influencer marketing space going to be? So paid media is essentially content, or rather branded content, choosing audiences. Whereas from a virality, earned media, and what an influencer can influence and do is where they make audiences choose the content. In a sense, you're placing yourself to a very different space. And with that thinking, we're saying what else has been happening in the world. Given the number of ads and everything that runs, we're just saying that millions and millions and millions of people are now using ad blockers. Almost you would either be on Chrome or Safari. And in fact, Chrome almost comes with ad blockers assisted, or you can just enable. So we're saying there's a lot of ad allergic, which is people are saying we don't want to see ads, or they're becoming fatigue spots. Thus, influencer marketing is getting a little more sun, a little more moment in the sun. The second part of it is COVID was a massive boost for influencer marketing, because what happens was brands needed to communicate. They had the media, but they had intense consumption of digital, but they were not able to step out and shoot ads. So the thinking went from a lot of TVC thinking, which was very, campaign based, to a lot of, and even DVCs for that matter. TVCs and DVCs just mean, television commercials or digital video commercials. To a lot of influencers now sitting at home and making content, which the brand then used through the influencer and started, reaching their audiences. So COVID became something about, we'll have to mute someone. Yeah. So what happened was a lot of content and a serious amount of influencer marketing boost happened through COVID. And what also influencer marketing does is actually it allows a little bit more of a two-way conversation, because it's about people, influencers sharing content, and then people can come and ask questions and make their comments. And actually, then the content creator or even the brand can jump into those conversations and answer those people in a very different way, in a very, non-branded space, where they can use the influencers audiences to have those conversations. So KOLs can really, and KOLs, by the way, means key opinion leaders, which is a word synonymous with influencers. And it's outside India, a lot of in the Southeast Asia, the word is KOL marketing. The other thing is why influencers is because people are looking at a lot of explanations of the video. They want to see what is it before they buy a product. They want to know what are the conversations around a product, and therefore the need for influencers and controlling that environment used by brands to create more and more video content, because that's where your products are being seen before purchase, apart from your ads. So, so it's literally, and there are a lot of people subscribing to all these instruction videos, how to do things. How-to videos have gone crazy over the COVID space, but even apart from COVID, it's just been going more and more, not only just how to do great things, but how to be fashionable, how to wear to, how to do makeup. So all of these things have led to influencers getting a lot more salience. What are the key platforms globally on this? See, there is Facebook, but Facebook is not so much. So I would say there's really three big platforms that covers it globally in terms of continuous, consistent influencer marketing. So there's Instagram, there's YouTube, there's TikTok outside of India. It's massive. And Twitter tends to be not, it's more of a buzz creation, instant noise on finding certain spikes on certain days using Twitter. Also, the interesting thing about this is the reason they have been also different. So you find that Instagram and TikTok behave very similarly. In fact, a lot of content on Instagram is actually imported from TikTok. And the life of the content is a few days. The duration of the content on TikTok and Instagram is not very long, largely less than 60 seconds. And in case of stories, it's even shorter. YouTube is a very different space where it's more detailed. The conversations are longer, the video durations are longer, and the life of the content is also much longer. Typically on YouTube, you would see a content creator on YouTube would create a video. Let's say a content creator on YouTube normally gets 1 million views. Let's say they would get about 500,000 views in the first 30 days. The remaining 500,000 views would actually come over the next few weeks and months and even throughout the year. And interestingly, YouTube videos that tend to add value sometimes tend to continue having a small long tail effect year after year and week after week. And so that's why, so these are the key platforms. Coming back to influencer marketing 2.0, there's a lot of things. So what is influencer marketing? I'll just tell you the base summary for those of you who are not aware is brands reaching out to people on social media who have a lot of audiences. So let's say I'm a person on Instagram who has 50,000, 100,000, 500,000, 2 million followers. So all sorts of people who are there. Brands go and speak to them. They ask them they brief them on their product. Somebody like an agency like Social Catalyzers facilitates this entire conversation. The product placement or the product scripting is done with an influencer. They build a story, they put that on their profile, on their page, on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or TikTok, and it reaches their audience. So that essentially is influencer marketing. And what we are saying is, there's been a lot of influencer marketing where the brand has just sent the product and hey, say something good about it, to saying, you know what, we need to now start thinking about what is it that the job of an influencer is. A lot of just communication to an influencer's audience is very simple. Uh, you don't need an influencer to communicate your brand. You've got lots of media, TV ads, digital, and tons of ways to reach. So the one pillar of an influencer is really to influence. We're saying an influencer's job is to build advocacy, and that depends on the influencer's credibility to be able to be believable by their audiences. And therefore we say you can use lots of behavioral science techniques, communication techniques that an influencer can actually be briefed with to credibly say things about a brand that are believable to his or her audiences. I'm not going to dwell too much onto this, but what we're saying is just the salience here is an influencer's job is to influence. For everything else, awareness related, really, there is paid media, which does a very, very solid and powerful job at a much cheaper cost. Therefore, what are all sorts of considerations that you can have while thinking about an influencer? And here's an interesting example. What we say is, if you have to draw two axes, and this is a very subjective claim I'm making, but it's also a very intuitive claim I'm making, which is, if you map the credibility of an influencer with the size of the influencer, you tend to generally see an inverse correlation, which means the bigger I am as an influencer, the less likely my followers are going to believe that I'm saying something about a brand without any incentive. So my obviousness, the larger I am, the more it's like I become more of an awareness builder than a credibility driver. So there's something called the sweet spot. And then we say that you as a brand, what are all the things that you need to consider while thinking of getting into influencer marketing? Are you looking for visibility through influencers? Or are you really looking for advocacy, which means and depth, which is, hey, my product really works, versus, hey, here's my product. Even that can be served within influencer marketing, but I would say that your awareness builders are far cheaper on paid media. There are scenarios where an influencer who is large can also be useful because they're talking about a kind of product which is mostly into fashion and lifestyle. Because the cool association, let's say Disha Patani with the Calvin Klein jeans, gives it a very cool association versus just the reach that she is really giving. So, and then of course you have to consider the typical marketing considerations, which is your brand more emotional or rational? In fact, again, the rational drivers come more beautifully through influencers. Are you a new brand, an established brand? Are you coming out with a new product? I'm just putting questions over here that need answering, and that can all have various answers to which kind of influencers should you be looking at. Moving on. Therefore, we are saying, what is the problem right now in the influencer marketing? Because everyone's jumped in, and there are a few agencies with limited databases of influencers. What happens is, any market, I put Indonesia here because we work in Indonesia and India as a scaled managed services provider as Social Catalyzers. We noticed that a typical popular influencer who's a macro or a mega is talking about, let's say, Lakme on week 1, and talking about a Vivo mobile on week 2, and then talking about some other brand on week 3. So it's like tons of brands are working with one set of influencers because that's the availabilities, that's the knowledge, and also some people are so cool that everybody wants to work with them. But the fact is, as a result, they've become fatigued and overused, and then what are we going to do? So we're saying, and then what has been this next problem? We're saying, this is a brand there's a massive brand that has sent a product to an influencer, and a post has gone out that just has her holding bits of talcum powder all over herself. This sort of really not serves no purpose apart from an awareness or being cheeky or funny. But really, if you had to do sort of something like this, you would be far better off spending money with Facebook or Google to achieve a similar thing. So we're saying, how do you design for credibility? What are you really going to say? And influencer marketing cannot be about let's make the logo bigger. It's of course a big problem within the creative skill and how brands communicate. And I think everyone's wiser and has gone past that zone. But we're just lensing that cliche here to say, this is not how to do influencer marketing. And therefore, now there is a big conversation, and this is a global thing, as well as an India thing, as well as a Southeast Asia thing. Micro influencers are becoming very important, which means not the really big influencers, not the really big influencers, but all those people in the middle who form far more credible means of communicating a brand's advocacy need. And because they have not been overused, they are more credible, they seem more real to people who follow them, because they don't seem like celebrities or big people. You never really believe when Amitabh Bachchan talks about Cycle Chhap Agarbatti that is the best Agarbatti. He's just giving it the association, visibility, and ambassadorship, and he's running on a TVC. But it's really something like that, where we're saying micro influencers are becoming huge, and where are they? How do we find them? And brands and their partners, even agencies like Social Catalyzers, till let's say a couple of months ago, we would be struggling to have databases more than a few thousand influencers who are micro influencers who could serve brand needs. But the fact is, there are more than millions of, let's say there are more than 2 million influencers in India alone who are influencer eligible by any criteria of marketing considerations, but they just have not been tapped. So what we're saying, how can we be different about influencer marketing 2.0? Try and, just like you put all that effort when you make a TVC, when you do consumer research and you try and script it and you design it and you build it, there has to be a science of designing a credible influencer's post. There is a science for that. And I'm just, in the interest of time, I'm going to jump past that and put this here only as a consideration. Design them for certain KPIs that I'll help you answer with the technology discussion that we'll soon move to. And that's how we move forward. So we're saying, can we use influencers as a media mix? What is the role of big influencers versus small influencers and the smallest influencers? So it goes something like from awareness builders to engagement drivers to really the smallest people, the micro influencers, again, people like me, people I trust. So having this pyramid allows you to build a cascade. If you're thinking about a campaign you reach your brand out to the audiences of influencers and to your audiences, you could look at this pyramid as a design factor to say, hey, what is my need? What am I going to look for? And can I build a cascade out of this? Lastly, something that always gets left out is organically what you can reach for any influencer is a limited audience. Let's say if an influencer has 1 million followers, Instagram, if you're lucky, will show it to maybe 20-30% of, maybe if you're really lucky, 40% of their audiences. That's really pushing it, by the way. By the way, typically brands actually have less than 1% reach organically on their Insta pages. So unlike content creators and influencers. So having said that, that's the only audience you've reached, having paid so much money to an influencer. So there are many things you can do. You can do whitelisting, which is get rights on that audience content, put some money behind it to reach it to more audiences. Instead of firing an ad, you're firing from the shoulders of an influencer's page and post, which is talking about your brand and reaching out to audiences. And you can actually, the cost per reach, per impression, per view can go really down if you marry some aspect of paid media to an influencer's post. And for a very little amount, you can reach a whole lot of other people. So this is called whitelisting, or you can even take the influencers. A lot of brands are doing this. Instead of thinking big TVCs and big DVCs and big production videos, they're saying, let's just shoot reasonable content with influencers, which we will then also share on our pages and reach out to audiences. I'm speaking some very basic stuff to a lot of people here who have already done a ton of influencer marketing. But this was a quick reckoner on what influencer marketing is and what are some of the considerations that are very strategically important for brands to look into it. And we're going to really get into fun leading from here very soon, which is, when you think of, let's say, like a brand like Axe, and as a typical brand manager, you might just say, okay, this is my brand persona, this is my deodorants, and I want this good looking 22-year-old guy who's a chocolatey fellow, and he will be doing that. But that's thinking brand ad. Whereas, you know what, I would think Disha would be a great influencer, because when I look at her audience on Instagram, she probably has more guys following her than girls. And so we can actually look at these pivots to say, hey, listen, what is an influencer's audience really all about? Your influencer is a mouthpiece. What's her audience? There's another aspect before we move on to the tech discussion, which is there are pages. There are all sorts of viral pages that I'm sure all of you follow, some of them or all of them or some of them, where these are pages with millions of followers, and they just share viral content around Bollywood, cricket, entertainment, news, whatever. And globally, they have various other tonalities around sports, entertainment, and humor. And these pages sometimes have massive audiences. So here's an example. We did this for porn some time back, where while they made a DVC, they made an ad, and they ran their millions of dollars on Facebook and Google. They gave that piece of content to social catalysts and said, hey, can you give it a sense of virality? We picked all these pages across Instagram, which have millions of followers, and even Facebook pages. And we then seeded the content over there. And you can see there's something very interesting that we did. We did something a brand manager would never do, which is took permission to make it look very native, that the admin of a particular page has found this video so lovely, and they have made an edit to it and uploaded it on the page, telling their audiences what a lovely video this is. And this was an emotional video. And we got a few million views. And this is a very small snapshot campaign just to show you there are, apart from influencers, there are pages that can also be used to create virality around the content. So let's move on to the real show today, which
So Kalyan, before we move on, I thought let's spend some time to answer questions. So if there are any questions from the audience, they can raise their hand and unmute themselves and answer questions. Yes, Palash, go on.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Kalyan. So a couple of questions I have. One, what are how would you divide influencers basis, not just the size? Is there any other categorization that you do? And from a market opportunity point of view, what are their pain points in terms of monetizing or creating content or partnering with brands?
Great questions, very loaded questions as well. So there are many genres. So earlier there used to be a few genres. So you have your standard, which is beauty, lifestyle, fitness, fashion, sports. Then you have specialized, which let's say, I'm a health and wellness person. Then you have within fitness and sports, you have people who are cyclists to auto. Then you have auto is a very big thing. So there you have automotive influencers who talk about auto and cars and wheels and machines. So there is a whole bunch of influencers. In fact, you can see that, in fact, in our tool, you have influencers you can look at from categories of music, television, shopping, retail, beverages, photography, beer, wine, spirits, sports, gaming, activewear. So there is a massive number of buckets that you can really be looking at. That's part one. So to answer your question, there, depending on your brand and basis your genre and your audience of the brand, you can find genre-based fitments for your brand to reach out to use influencers to reach out to your audiences. Second is a very loaded question, and I think I would like to take that later. What are the pain points? And what's happened is there are lovely stories out there, global and Indian, where influencers are now making a ton of money. But the fact is, and therefore that vision is driving a whole bunch of people and content creators to make content. And a lot of them are savvy and a lot of them are not. So the pain point is really how to make good content. And that's a massively long discussion, which is to say, in your genre, you have some basic hygiene things, which is people and content creators need to now figure out how often do I need to make content? How does a platform reward me? For example, Instagram likes content creators to create a lot of content. Can you put as much as one content a day? And when you speak of Instagram, I'll give you a very small example. There's no such thing just as Instagram. So Instagram itself is about 5 different things you can do and 5 different inventory types and behaviors that Instagram has, which is you can make an image, a static post, you can make a carousel post, which can be static and videos side by side and swipe right. You can actually have a reel video, you can do a story, and you can actually do a normal video as well. So there are literally 5 things you can do on Instagram, and therefore what are the frequencies within which you will gain. So there's a lot of discussion, but the pain point is how to think through my content, how often to do it, and how to shoot it well, and how to get to a place where I start becoming more and more professional. So I'll just leave it at that. There are many pain points, but it's just the hierarchy of things to do in the process to follow and get the platform to like you and then get the audiences to like you.
Yeah. Kalyan, we didn't answer Raghu's question. Raghu had a question right at the beginning.
Yeah. Hi, Kalyan. I work in the agri space. What I wanted to check with you was how influencer marketing is working, particularly with relevance to rural and agri domains.
So this is again a good question. In my experience, we've always been working and only been working with mostly the brands, the FMCGs, the usual suspects from Unilever, Coca-Cola, P&G, and the newer brands and the newer D2C brands. I am not equipped to really tell you what's been happening in the agri space, but we can explore that on the tool right now as we get into this demonstration to say what all can be done around that and who are the people who could be talking about it and what is it that they have been talking about and who have they been talking about. We can find some answers within this platform.
Nice, thanks. We'll look forward.
Okay, so shall we?
I think we'll take one last question and then.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Nirvik has a question. So Nirvik, we'll take your question and then we'll move on to the next stage. Next part.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Kalyan. Nirvik here.
Hi, Nirvik.
I wanted to know if how does influencer marketing work in a B2B scenario? Like, is it effective or what's?
So you're okay. So the B2B scenario, it clearly works. There are a lot of B2B platforms are doing it. Again, from my domain specialization, we've always been in a B2C environment. The B2B environment, let's say, requires other platforms because when you're talking business, your audiences are not really, all these platforms are mass audiences, right? Like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or even Twitter. However, Twitter has relevance to that because you can find industry captains or people who are credible in the sense of what they speak about news and business, and in your category, if they speak about technology, and they have other CIOs who are their audiences. So again, LinkedIn can become important, but where it has failed, rather it has not scaled so much, is also because a lot of people who are credible in the B2B space cannot be seen to be taking money to say good things about a brand or about a product, because that kind of would dilute and the obviousness of them saying something that's paid and they are expressing too much love for let's say a SaaS platform gets questionable. So I would just
Kalyan?
Yeah.
Hi, if I may just add. Everybody, my name is Rishi. I run a PR firm, and I've been good friends with Kalyan. Kalyan has been our client also. We've handled a bit of PR for social catalyzers, and of course, I continue to, reach out to Kalyan for some of our consumer clients. Most recently, we did that for one of the prominent TikTok competitors in India. So just to dive straight into the discussion and about B2B influencers. Now that's a topic that we also manage a lot of B2B clients, and it has been a big pain point for B2B clients across industries to find influencers. So I'll give you 2 examples here. One is with IBM. So IBM, for many years they were trying to find a influencer to market their cloud and AI capabilities. Unfortunately, there was only one gentleman who in India who had worked with Amazon and Microsoft and later for a brief while with IBM also. And they eventually propped up that person as a kind of an influencer, and he started writing blogs and started evangelizing certain products from IBM. This is one example of how they did it. And related to this, what we tell our clients in B2B industries when they want to try out influencer marketing, we tell them that you have to turn one of your senior executives into an influencer. This is precisely what everybody from Microsoft to Oracle to even Google, and if you see some of the biggest influencers on LinkedIn or Twitter, which are on the corporate side, chances are they are the chief marketing heads or chief technology officers, or in many cases CEOs of large B2B tech companies. In India, I can give Sridhar Vempu as a primary example, but globally, that's the recommendation from a non B2C side. I think since this is a problem we have faced since many years. So I just wanted to just add my bit that the best solution is to work on creating influencers from your own leadership team.
Yeah. So, hey, Rishi, thanks a ton for that. But
Thanks, Rishi.
yeah. So what it just summarizes is, in a B2B space, it's hard to find people, or there'll be really credible people, but they won't work for money. And if they don't like your product, they're not just going to say something good about it without, even if your product is half good. So there are many challenges because you're asking for really credible people to say, the influencer marketing world in the mass and FMCG space is far more transactional. If you're a decent product and brand, an influencer would be willing to just say something for a price and put it on and try it and do things, versus the B2B space. It's a far more loaded and difficult transaction. And a lot of people, like I said, who would say good things about your brand wouldn't do it for the money anyway. And we face that as a challenge. So, yeah.
Thanks, Kalyan.
So now I would like to, Rohit, I think we're good with the questions. Let's move on to Klug Tech.
May I ask a question? My name is Shalini.
Hi, Shalini.
Yeah. So sorry, Kalyan, right before you're about to go into the next thing. So very interesting, really enjoying this. And went through Klug Tech also looks great. I have a quick question that from a platform point of view, as someone who's trying to onboard creators onto a platform, what
Right.
advice do you give that would attract creators of all shapes and sizes? Of course, we know money is the first consideration, but
Of
what
course.
motivates beyond that, or any examples that you've seen within the Indian subcontinent, like TikTok suddenly exploded one day
Yeah.
without a lot of seeding compared to its other Indian competitors currently. So, any thoughts on that would be great.
Okay. So I think let's just keep the money aside. So why when you mean platform, you're talking about a social media platform that needs influencers to come on board, right? Is that
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, apart from money, I think this is a bigger marketing question to say, listen, why should I come onto your platform? So apart from, and content creators always saying that, look, is there something new that's coming as a value that's a clear, can I get new audiences? Is there a FOMO that you can drive that to say that this platform will now get you certain kind of audiences or conversations? So if you remember, in between, there was a whole bunch of these, what was it? My God, I'm blanking out. But Rohit, if you can help me with this, where people would do these conversations and talks in invite-only groups, and Elon Musk was tweeting about it suddenly.
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse, yes. By the way, I don't think I've heard the word Clubhouse in the last 6 months. I'm sure it's happening, but just to give you a sense how it came and it went. But what it did offer there was a certain amount of value of saying, call people in with a limited audience and have a conversation. So everywhere you just have to find a new value build that doesn't exist. And they're saying, look, I'm already big, I'm already large, I already have an audience. Why should I come onto your platform? So those are some base questions I would go to answering that. what is it that is a unique prop that I'm building here. And if this can see the value of, so you can drive some form, okay, look, it's going to be the next big thing by whatever logic. You see a value that, look, if I'll get deeper conversations and a future monetization that can be audience based and other brand based versus what the platform can incentivize really. So I would leave it at that. Happy to skin that answer more in a, but that really is a, what you pose for is a marketing challenge, because content creators are always looking for, hey, why should I come there? And therefore they'll say, what am I going to get out of this? Newer audiences or chance to monetize, or do something which is help me create better content quickly and faster for my existing platforms as well as the one you're asking me to onboard.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Kalyan. That was a very helpful insight. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. So I posed a few problems saying that globally there is a problem that a certain number of influencers are getting used. Globally, the other problem is, and those of you who are familiar with influencer marketing again, or at some level, there's been a very base science, not for the want of trying, but just because it was very hard to get granular good data to say, how do I select an influencer? So I give you some strategic cuts. But even without technology and tool and data to support those decisions, you just make your life, hey, this influencer looks good. She's good. She's making great content. He or she has 100,000 followers. That fits in my budget and she has a good engagement rate. Let's do it. And that's how fairly a couple of 100 million plus or maybe $1 billion plus have been spent by many brands to use influencers. We've been working with Klug Tech for the last 3 years to develop a technology that says that, look, can we invert the funnel? Can a brand say that, look, I want an influencer from India? Oh, by the way, this Klug technology works globally. So, and what it does is it frees up all these decisions. So it can work on 3 platforms. Rather, it works on 3 platforms, which is Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. These 3 platforms pretty much contribute to more than 90% of all influencer marketing in terms of money spent. And this is a business problem solved for using tech. What it does is it inverses the funnel to say, can I define an influencer from a geography? Can I define that influencer's audience? And how many ways can I do that? So I'm going to go really quickly to show you some mad things are now possible. So imagine if 6 months ago, you as a brand or a client gave a brief to social catalyzers, ki, look, hey, I want an influencer from Delhi who has mostly male audiences. But this is for an alcohol brand. So at least can we have most of the people who follow that influencer to be above 25 plus, and I want them also to be male. And can they be largely around Delhi? I would have just, my head would have burst. I said, like, you're asking for all the right questions, but now I'll have to hope that I'll look for influencers in Delhi who look like the guys who probably have male-oriented content, inverted commas, who are likely to have more male audiences for that reason. So we'll have to find all these heuristics or surrogates to hopefully get it right by finding influencers first, then asking them for data. Ki, tell me about your audiences. Then what would be the problem? The influencer would say, hey, listen, why will I tell you all about my audiences? Listen, do you want to work with me or not? I'm a big guy. I have 100,000 followers. You first tell me the brand. And so it just gets into a loop of no-go, non-scalable, can't do. In comes Klug. So, okay, first of all, second is you may have seen other tools or you may not have seen. There are other tools in the world that do this kind of work. So there are platforms, let's just say there's something called Hyperator that does a really good job, that used to do a great job before we came. There are other tech partners who provide a lot of data to big agencies globally and to big platforms to run that. What Klug Tech has been able to do is shoot past all of them in just 2 ways. And I'll demonstrate that, which is the size of our influencer database, which is over 210 million odd influencers across 3 platforms. We've been able to do far better analytics. We've been able to bring some really goosebumpy stuff on image recognition and audio recognition within videos. and we are able to do this instantly. So we have a data size. So our competitors, the next gold standard, biggest competitor in the world would probably have, Vaibhav, you can help me with this, but less than 100th of the size of database. Of course, this is largely in that ballpark would be correct. So we are 100 times bigger in terms of the best platform out there. I may have missed somebody, but we've been studying all platforms for the last 3 years and decided how could we beat everybody out there. But the idea is not to beat. The idea is to make utility based, have enough of a science based data packed funnel of influencers who could be filtered down using brand logic to come to such answers. So let me give you a sample of that. So let's say this is Instagram. 133 million people across the world are in the system. How are they defined as influencers? They are not necessarily influencers. This means that any public profile on Instagram with at least 1,000 followers is considered an influencer, and we pretty much have the data for a large majority of them, not 100%. But 133 million would pretty much satisfy any geographies, any need. And I'll show you how it breaks down for India as well. We also have YouTube. So YouTube, we have 7.5 million YouTube channels codified by brand logic to tell you what their location is, what are the languages being spoken in that, age, gender, keywords, lookalikes, followers, engagement. We can tell you everything. And the same thing goes for TikTok. Which is 78 million influencers or profiles that talk about content. And you can see this guy has grown really to #1 position. Everyone must be familiar with Khabi. So moving back to Instagram, and let me show you how we solve that problem. So suppose let's go back to that brief, that mad brief that would have just turned my eyeballs inside. I would say that, look, okay, so you said you wanted an influencer from India. How many influencers does Klug Tech have data crawled in India? 7.8 million profiles on Instagram alone for India. You say, all right, fine, that's great. But remember, Kalyan, we said we want their audiences to be from Delhi. So this is the important part. What this tool also does is the influencer is just your mouthpiece. What you really care is about her audience or his audience. And we've freed up that ability to say, all right. So we've got cities and countries only. Not all cities are there. Almost every country is there, if they have a certain quantum of influencers that reside in a country. So really small countries in Europe and Africa and all may be dropped. So right now we have just 2 filters running, and we have 400,000 influencers who have at least 5% audience in Delhi. But you said, look, 5% is too less. Can I find influencers? I don't want pan-India influencers. I want influencers who have a much bigger salience to Delhi. So suppose I push it to 50%. It's a machine. It won't mind. It will just populate, and it will do so instantly and tell you how many influencers in India who have audiences in Delhi and have at least 50% audience in Delhi. And then you scroll down and you can see all these influencers, profiles and pages and publications. Anything on Instagram with more than 1,000 followers starts populating following that mathematical logic. But you say, okay, fine, I've got some pages, so remove that. Just get me people, which is either male or female. And suddenly we are down to 5,000 odd results. So imagine how quickly we are whittling down to an answer that needs to be given. Then you say, look, hey, listen, I also remember I was talking about this alcohol brand is it's a whiskey brand. So I wanted to have audiences as well to be male. Immediately you put that filter and the answer goes to 4,300 odd people. Then you say, hey, listen, that's really good. Now I want their age to be a little bit. So I want the audience of the influencer to be 25 plus because that's the legal drinking age. I want the age of the influencer also, of course, to be 25 plus. As soon as you run those 2 filters, it goes down to 2,900. So imagine the scale. When we remember, we're saying about freeing up data and bringing forth influencers who will not be news and who cannot be data reduced and go reductive and go so crazy on this. 2,900 people. So obviously you're not seeing big profiles because we want a Delhi salience. You got an age salience, and you're able to see. so many influencers who are either male or female, who have male audiences, and so on. And you're able to say that, look, you know what? I just want, so there's something called engagement rate. Now, what is engagement rate? Engagement rate is typically on Instagram defined as the number of, on an average, the number of likes and comments you get divided by the total number of followers you have. So a baseline in the industry that we've been working in India and Indonesia for sure, we've been seeing clients often say influencers should have at least 3% or more engagement. But here's the joy. You've got 2,500 people who cut the cake for you and satisfy your needs. You can get greedy. You say, why stop at 3% now? Klug Tech will say that if you've got 2,500 results, can we get people with 6% engagement rate? Can we go crazy? I mean, any number, you can keep pushing it. 10%. How many? Immediately the numbers keep falling and it goes from 2,000 to 1,391 in this case. And it does so instantly. What it also does is it drops out all those bigger influencers who seemingly had bigger numbers. And now it shows you people who have much higher engagement and maybe much smaller followers. Hey, but it works really well. And these are good quality people with high engagement. And you can run sort of all sorts of these filters. So there are actually other things you can also do. There are these interest buckets we just talked about. Hey, since this is alcohol, can we have influencers out of these 1,300 who speak about beer, wine, and spirits? We still have 87 results. You can download all of that instantly on this platform. It's a SaaS model, which means you buy a certain number of tokens. So it says it'll cost you 0.4 credits to download 10, which means if I type 25 here, 25, it means 1 credit. And 1 credit is priced at a pricing we have. Depends on the institution and depends on the person speaking to us. So that's how this works. Let me also show you some very cool other features that I was saying, hopefully will give you some goosebumps. What if you as a brand said, look, I'm a big massy brand. I'm a new brand that wants to talk to everybody in India. I want to find who are the influencers in India who have in the last 3 months, who are the trending influencers, who are the really growing influencers. So imagine in the last 3 months, I want influencers who have grown their profile, but let's say they have doubled their profile, who have grown by more than 200%. So the Klug Tech can instantly define that for you and say that, hey, listen, did you know that there are almost 3,000 people in Instagram right now, profiles that have doubled their growth of followers in the last 90 days. And there are a whole bunch of them in the news or in your viral stories or on something you'd hear about 5 or 10 or 3 of them. We are able to data map that and say, hey, there are a ton of people who may have appeared whose content may have gone viral, or they may have appeared in an OTT or may have come on Shark Tank or what have you. And they're all showing up here because that's the power of data. We're just saying who's trending, and you can really go greedy on this. You say, listen, can we see people who are really going maybe 400%? Again, like I said, there's a tool, it doesn't mind, it doesn't get emotional. It just throws you. So as long as your query is feasible and has a feasible set of people who satisfy that, it'll show up. Now, in all of this, you can run simultaneously. Imagine I said, I want to find influencers who have at least 60 to 70% or more real followers. And this is what I want to say, that there's a lot of content creators who don't have credible followers. So they may have mass followers or sleepy engagers or even bots. Bots are machine-made profiles built to follow people and make it look like they're growing. So we've certainly been able to clarify and say that there are 69 profiles out of all of those who have decent quality followers. And you can actually up that ante to say, I want only 80% and above real followers base. And I'll do a very interesting demo for you right now. So that's 16 people who satisfy that, who have grown more than 4 times in the last 3 months and have very high quality audience. Now let me remove that. Let me remove this. Just going back, location India. If you remember, we had 7.8 million influencers. If I put, and this is a reveal, this is what we wanted to do. This is the WTF moment I wanted to give you. If I put a filter of 80% and more real followers, it goes down to 168,000 people, influencers only. And of course, there are many, and of course, this is a very stringent requirement. It's not saying that they are faking it or they're creating necessarily fake profiles. A lot of massy followers tend to join influencers. So the idea here is to gauge the audience of an influencer, not so much to judge the influencer's bad habits or bad activities, but just to say, sometimes influencers grow and acquire a lot of mass followers who may not really be useful for your brand. But if you put that asset to say, medium, look, I still need needs, but 70% or more will do, that's still a big number. So,
Kalyan, if I can just ask, what kind of filter goes in that from medium to, because it's a drastic thing. So is it a trade secret or?
No, it is a trade secret in the sense the algorithm picks up, but these are actually, it's not so much of a trade secret. It's rather a trade protocol.
Okay.
So there are many platforms that can, that for a limited audience of data of influencers are able to tell you how many are real, how many are mass, how many are suspicious, how many are influencers. And our tool does the same in great granularity. So when we get into so this tool can also take any influencer and hold them against the light, like a cellophane paper or an X-ray. And you can, because of the data modeling and machine learning, we've been able to populate and tell you things about an influencer. We rely on Instagram. We are 100% GDPR compliant, which means we only look at public data. We anonymize that data. We model that through machine learning. We use AI and we use image rec to give you insights about an influencer. Then not even the influencer will be able to tell you. A very limited amount of it can come from Instagram directly.
Okay.
But we can tell you some things that will really blow your mind, and I will show you some of that very soon. So I will come to your answer.
Thank you.
So here is the other stuff. So imagine you're saying, I want to look for, and it becomes really tough for, let's say, finance, fintech, edtech, and all these guys. They want to find some very interesting people. So I'll do one. Suppose you want, hey, let's say I'm launching this new shampoo, it's Tresemme, and I want to do hair care and all of that for Unilever, and I want to find hairstylists. Now that becomes, again, just imagine me using all sorts of expletives to define my frustration before we had this tool. So I can find people who professionally claim to be a hairstylist. So I just put the query that in the bio, in their own description, they professionally, if some influencer claims to be a hairstylist, and I'll assume anyone who puts that is not lying, I will populate in India instantly on Klug Tech. There are 5,900 odd people who have mentioned hairstylist in their bio. Instantly, we are able to do that. Now, what also happens is, if I look for interest of the influencer, let's say around, we look for food and stuff, what happens is, you will find lots of people. What is the food thing? Where was it? Restaurants, food, and grocery. Now that a lot of people, in fact, everybody, including most of us on this who are listening on this call today, we all think we are foodies. And I think 1 out of 10 posts, or maybe 7 out of 10 posts, in case of me, is about food. But that doesn't make me a chef. So there are 1.3 million results that show up. But you say, hey, listen, and this is Kapoor is also showing up as an influencer who talks about food. I don't want that. I want people who are chefs, who have mentioned chef in the bio. Problem solved. Instantly, it goes from 7.8 million to 8,800 people who claim. And you can do all those filters again. I want the credible audience. I want X. I want Y. I don't want the big influencers. I just want those mid-sized influencers from 10,000 to 250,000 because I don't have a big budget. Whatever it is, you put it in and give the system your internet ping and 30 milliseconds on my server, and there you go. Everybody on instant, on demand download. You might say, hey, listen, I have this agency that does some really good work. They're called social catalyzers, but they don't have time to figure out how to reach out to these people. Can you tell me, out of these influencers, how many people's email IDs and phone numbers is already populated in your system? So out of those 551 influencers that we have right now, you will be able to download with their mobile numbers and email IDs, either or, instantly. And this requires for every filter. So you can really play around. Now let me give you some more crazy fun stuff just before I move on to, and Vaibhav, remember to guide me in case I miss something.
Sure, sir.
I'll do something called keywords. Now, keywords does to find important text into the posts of by influencers to say, listen, I want to find somebody, I'm launching this really premium brand. This bag costs X, this is new watch, let's say I'm launching, and I want it to, the audiences are people, and I want influencers who maybe talk about some really expensive cars. So you can give me any car, but I'll take this example to because I've done this before. I put Mini Cooper. Now, either if the influencer has mentioned it or talked about it in the video, or the image that he has shared has a Mini Cooper, which means 22,000 to 200 odd people on their Instagram profile at some point have talked about a Mini Cooper. Now, why am I sharing this? So let's say there's Faisal Khan. I go to his profile, and this is the big reveal. Now, Faisal Khan, he's an automobile blogger, so it's very likely he may have talked about a Mini Cooper. And till about a month ago, he shared a Mini Cooper post again recently, but till a month ago, he had shared only this post. And I'm going to go to that one very quickly, and I'll tell you what am I talking about and why this feature becomes fairly mind-blowing. Sorry, I'm really claiming all the good things on my own self, but please humor me. I'm feeling exuberant. Here you go. So there's Faisal Khan. He's sitting on a Mini Cooper, but here is the magic. Nowhere in the post he's mentioned the word Mini Cooper anywhere, but we were able to recognize it, pick it up. We were discussing this for a major mother and baby care, largest e-com platform in the country. And they said, we want to talk about car seats. And we were able to find influencers who talked about car seats, because that's not a category, right? So sometimes you just want to find people, and we can find them using this feature. Then you might come to say, listen, we are working on ed tech, fintech. We want to find people who talk about finance or who talk about investing. Now, the algorithm on our system is pretty good, where it says, hey, you give me a keyword, but my algorithm knows that there are tons of other keywords around finance, which are very important to your search. Immediately, with a 90% affinity, proximity keywords are generated. And instantly, anybody who satisfies these conversations is populated. People struggle, including big clients like InMoney and so on in the fintech space, who had discussions with us. They said, we are barely able to find people. We've got a big list of 30 people, 40 people. I said, hey, here's 1,700 people. How about that? And out of this, of course, you might want to say that, hey, listen, we just want male or female. But many publications are also influencers. They just behave as a publication or content creator. And you've got all of this. In fact, she's quite popular. CA Rachna Ranade. So, and the same thing you can more or less, without this kind of granularity, of course, but you can do this for YouTube. And these features of keyword searches, the audio rec and the image rec become very important, because on YouTube, a lot of influencers and content creators make irrelevant for discovery. They put irrelevant tags on their video, so other people will find it and watch it, and the algorithm will recommend it. We're able to sift through that really quickly. So that's pretty much it on this is saying, how do you discover influencers who satisfy all criteria? And we've said that this is the funneling that's been brought to life, and this is how influencer marketing should be done, having data science to support my choice and rationale of influencers. It should not be about how I feel about it, or the brand manager feels about it, or a particular agency content partner feels about it. Moving on, therefore, to something called influencer insight. Once you have chosen all these influencers, what can I see? What can I know? What can I do? Does anybody have an influencer they want to know about that anyone has worked? I'll just Remember when I was presenting, I was talking about Disha Patani. And let's say you as a female brand, you might say that, hey, listen, let's use her, all of that. She's really cool. She's great as a brand ambassador. But as an influencer, what kind of audiences does she have that is relevant to my brand? So I would argue, and of course, I'm using this as an example, that she would be a great axe angel who does a content piece that talks about, hey, if you wear an axe, you will be my date. I'm just making this up as I go. Why? Because first of all, what all can I see? I can see her followers. I can see what kind of engagement she gets on her views. I can see how many likes she gets. What is her engagement rate? For someone with 51 million followers, 1.5% engagement is not bad. And I'll rationalize that. But here's the thing. And I was telling you, Reels is a separate entity literally within Instagram. And you can see her Reels get almost 3 times the number of views that her average other older videos get. So Reels have a virality quotient and has been designed to behave like TikTok and more within Instagram. And because clients and brands are making more Reels, we decided to sift out just the Reel data and put it. Average Reel views is 8 million. Earlier, influencer marketing companies would have or brands would have looked at the average views and looked at this. With Reels, we found a differentiator market saying Reels has a different quotient KPI, and here is what it is. Here is something we can predict. When she engages with a brand and does a brand-led post versus her organic outcome, she gets 27% result. So which means if she gets 7.94% million views, if she did a brand integrated post and talked about a brand, it would get only 27% of the outcome. So you're able to see, you don't make judgments on what you see and about her organic content, but about what she will get you in the future, because we already have data for her branded posts and how it has performed and populated that average and provided it to here. By the way, the magic has just begun. Here you can see how she has been growing in the last 6 months. What kind of conversations she's been hanging out a lot in Indonesia and Bali. I can see all these places that she's been talking about recently. Suppose Disha Patani for some reason is not agreeable to working with us, but we say, hey, who are the other influencers who share similar content? By the way, this feature is also there in the discovery. I didn't run it there because I knew we'd come up with it again. But instantly you can see who are the other influencers who actually share similar content, and we give you a sampler. Not these are mostly big, but there are many big, there are small, but content mapping basis influencer. And you can see what are our conversation topics of late. Moving on, giving the engagement. So we are not only able to give you, we are able to tell you in her category, she maps really well to her average. So the average in the cohort and her number is the same. Otherwise, you would have seen a yellow line popping out somewhere outside this blue line. And here comes the fun. And this is very exciting. And somebody, I'm sorry, I'll be bad with names given the number of people who are asking questions. So please forgive me, apologies. But somebody asked, how do you know what kind of audience and what is real and how do you define that? I am telling you that 75% of Disha Patani's audience is credible, which means the remaining approximately 25% is here. Here is the breakup. So we're saying these are real people. How do we define real people? Real people are people on Instagram who behave like human beings by sharing content, liking, commenting, and sharing their display or changing their display profile on, which is called the DP on their own page. So these are real. I can tell you because I already have data for influencers. So that's there. We are able to say 17% of her profile followers are suspicious, which means they are inactive or they don't behave like human beings. They might be bots or just really boring people who've just logged into Instagram once, followed Disha Patani and left the building. And this is something called mass followers. So again, every influencer, especially the larger ones, have mass followers, but I would say her number is respectable, which is an 11%. What are mass followers? People who follow more than 1,500 accounts get quantified as mass followers. And many of the mass followers tend to be bots or rather people creating fake accounts just to be paid to follow people. And sometimes that's why remember you asked, how do you define credibility of the audience? This is how we do it. We've got modeling. We are able to go dip into the public profile of Disha Patani, sample about 22,000 odd followers randomly, and bucket them by their behavior and model this data to 90% plus accuracy to tell you instantly what it is. We can tell you which countries, when you're choosing Disha Patani as a brand ambassador, where is her audience from? 79% of our audience comes from India. But in the world, no platform in the world will tell you where does her actual engagement come from, which is likes. 89%, 90% of our likes comes from India. And then you can see all the other countries where it's coming from, for whatever reason. We can break this down by city. You're seeing the mad amount of granularity and the ability for a brand and a business owner to say, when I'm choosing somebody, what are my salient markets? Which are the cities? How is she represented there? And you can actually choose by this logic. Or once you have chosen an influencer, you can see all the things and what kind of audiences by city. And here was that argument. I said, look, while she would make great for a female-led brand, look, as an influencer, almost 80% of our audience is actually male. So you've got a flipped scenario, and she's better for acts or something that can do a crossover talk using a female influencer to a male audience. However, she can obviously still be very relevant if you're okay with the price you pay to her to speak to 22% of our audience as female. We can give you the age cohorts of how old are these people by their gender splits as well. So here is the breakdown. So since we modeled her followers, we are able to tell you how many followers have up to 500 followers in turn, who follow 500 people. What is the breakdown of people who follow 500 to 1,000 and things. So there are a lot of mass followers in her followers, which is about 11. And if you make a case of 1,000, one would not follow 1,000 people, but if you follow 1,000 people, you also sort of fall into a mass follower, but you're getting the same. Who are the other big profiles? So we call them notable followers. Who are the other influencers who follow Disha Patani? My God, she's got Gal Gadot. That just puts me in a whole new respect zone. There's Shraddha, there's all of this. So you know that when you're choosing these people, who are the people following her? And not only that, I can tell you what are these audiences who follow Disha Patani, what do they like to hear about with their affinity scores. One being baseline. So she talks about Justin Bieber, XYZ. Rather, the audience talks about these brands or mentions them on their timelines or their conversations. And here's a ton of brands, and you'll be able to now segment and everything. There's no projection that's not data backed. So we're saying she talks about Beats Electronics. She's probably been doing something, and here is what kind of engagement and what kind of numbers engages with that content when she talks about that. So all of that comes here. What are the audience buckets of interest, and their affinity scores? So what are the likers affinity and the followers affinity? If this is getting heavy for you guys, all I'm saying is we've got a lot of data that says what kind of content is loved by her audiences. Very simply put. And the same thing then goes into the granularity of who are the likers. So 88% of her likers are real, which means are credible, which is a good thing. Where are they coming from? So she gets and this is very important. When you pick a influencer, you have her whole audience of influencers, followers, that's fine. But who are the people who actually engage with the content? And here they are. So we are able to populate that instantly. Who are the notable likers? And here's an interesting figure. How many likes does she get from people who are not her followers? So this sort of gives you a virality quotient, and which city and so on. So the same data, and you can see that the number has gone up. 85% of our likes actually come from males, and only 14% of our likes come from females. So it's gone 5% even further, and so on, and everything else I told you earlier. Who are the people who are big people, who are the great influencers who actually like her content? So who are the notable likers, and so on. And of course, you don't need to go outside the platform, outside Klug Tech, to see what her content is like. You click and you can see her top organic posts. You go down, you can see what are her top branded posts. And if you remember, here she's got 12K likes. I'm sorry, I'll just move back to some videos. And you can see she's got 26 million views. And here she's got 600,000 views. So you can see when you do a branded post, and this is true for every influencer, the engagement is a small fraction of anything that actually happens for their organic posts. And like I said, Reels behaves differently. So we have populated the Reels separately, and you don't need to go outside the system. You can see what kind of numbers on what kind of content, and you can click on any of that and just visit the content on Instagram. So this is, and I'll just give you a sample. There's a guy we just saw for a brand called Titan and also a brand called Firebolt. He was doing a campaign. And again, I'm not making any judgment calls. This is just data. All great numbers, great engagement, 1.5 million followers, almost 6. And you're seeing that unlike Disha, who gets 25% paid performance, Kamlesh is getting 158%, which means he gets 58% more engagement than his best performing organic posts on average, which means he's probably boosting those posts and getting more people to see it, which is a damn good thing for a brand. But here we go, and we look at the audience, and this is a bit of a shocker because what the data is pointing is that only 21% of his audience is credibly useful. The rest of it is mass followers. There is a suspicious followers, it's almost 27-30%. And what the machine can guaranteedly tell is that about 18% followers are real, and a small percentage of influencers, 0.5%, are also influencers. You can verify all of this, and you will know why this, because you got Russians following him, you got Brazilians following him, Indonesians, Pakistan, Turkey, Poland, Spain, France. That doesn't look very nice. And you can see the cities. While Surat, Thane are great, Bombay, Delhi, Surat thing, and then there's Sao Paulo, and then there's Moscow, and you're seeing where the problems are coming up. Now, this is the ability of this tool to tell you what, how, when, where for any influencer on the planet on Instagram. Moving forward, I'll do a quick one now, just to give you 2-3 more things, and then we can get into Q&As. Also, I live in Kalimpong, so this is at least for anyone in the rest of India and Delhi and Bombay. I am an hour ahead of you, so it's getting dark and I need to switch on lights. So just give me exactly 3 seconds. And I'm back. Imagine, like a media, you're doing an influencer marketing campaign and you're working with Priyanka. I'm just taking some random examples just to demonstrate the power of the tool. And you're working with, let's say, Disha. We just did Disha, so let's do Disha. And but you're working with these 2 people in spending so much money, and you say, hey, but I want to know what is the audience overlap, organic. Now, no tool there are companies that built themselves on just this feature, and we made it a small feature and an important feature, I would say, on our platform. So instantly our tool will start working and say, I have data for Priyanka, I have data for Disha. So great. Combined follower base for both of these is 130 odd million, out of which 106 million are unique. The rest, about, you can say about 25 million odd people, are duplicate. Now, it may be good for you, it may be bad for you. The point is the ability to know. So when you go back when you're running a campaign, you have 20 influencers. You can go to 20 influencers, enter all their profiles, and you'll be able to know what is my unique reach of a particular campaign. Also a very powerful, useful thing, which is why when we designed Klug Tech, and we really designed it for our own use first, to say, listen, are we really adding value? We're saying that for any brand, if this much baseline science can go into their thinking for their campaigns, for their influencer marketing, on day 0, some of them would see as much as 30% efficiency build. And for many big brands, for reasons I just showed you about an influencer profile, maybe as high as 70 to 80% genuineness of audience can be achieved. Going to something, so now let's say again, you stuck with Disha and you want to say that, look, I've got money for one big, I want to work with either Disha or I want to work with Priyanka. And, can you help me make a choice? So we made a small feature because we already have all this data. We said, can we compare two influencers side by side, just like an e-commerce, compare this with this to make a decision. So all the data that I just spoke about, tabulated side by side beautifully to say, okay, they have so many followers. You can see how many average views, average likes, average comments. You can see what is the average engagement rate, 1.5. They're very close to each other. But you can see Disha gets 18% engagement, not from her followers, from outside her followers. What is the audience quality? Both of them are very sitting pretty. Now, here is an important one from a decision from a brand perspective. Our male audience is more important because Disha has far more male audiences than Priyanka, and so on. And you can see the countries instantly. You can see the cities of importance by hierarchy, by follower base. All of it right in front of you, instant and downloadable right away as a I'll just take this up as a PDF, and you're good to go. Moving on to something that now becomes, you say that, look, you're a new brand and you want to see what a competitor brand is doing. Or even let's say you're you're Ajio and you want to see, hey, what the hell is Myntra up to for the last 90 days in the world of influencer marketing. So any brand I can take this request for, but I'll show an example. If somebody wants to quip in with a big brand, small brand, whoever is your competitor, for the last 90 days for a particular geography, I can give you instant data and competition mapping. So the example I like to give here is this would take an Accenture and maybe a $5,000 or $10,000 to say, hey, we'll sit down 3 analysts. I'm just making things as I go on. So no offense to Accenture. We'll come back with a competition mapping of your brands. You're saying, hey, use Klug Tech, and for very little money, in about 5 seconds, the data can be generated. So reduce anybody with more than 10 likes. So let's say we want to know what Myntra has been up to in the last, because I know their handle, which is it's at Myntra, there's nothing else. But if anybody else wants to give me another handle, somebody who's looking at the comment section can let me know. But I click search for the last 90 days, immediately you start seeing this magic happen in front of your eyes. The system goes back, we look up the entire database. We have to, obviously we follow certain rules that how do we decide paid partnership is if the influencer has mentioned paid partnership through the Instagram feature, or in their post mention hashtag ad, hashtag collab, hashtag paid partnership, hashtag collab, paid collab. And there are a couple of other keywords by which we've decided to define that these are announcements from the influencer that they are admitting to a paid partnership. Only then we are able to pick that up, and only then we pick it up. But instantly what you see, what are all the top hashtags, top mentions, top sponsors, how many? So Myntra had 905 influencers with a total in the last 90 days alone with 579 million followers cumulative. They managed to get 7 million likes, 34 million views, 22,000 comments. And this is the breakdown in terms of how many mega influencers, macro influencers, micro influencers, and nano influencers, instantly downloadable as a PDF. And the joy of it doesn't stop there. You can see by engagements, you can see by recent, what are the posts that just went live. This went live literally, see, it's 1 hour recent. It went live 1 hour ago. My system has picked it up. And you can see what are the products they're talking about, who's been tagged, downloadable instantly. You want to see engagement and you want to see followers. I want just the micro influencers. I want to see the big, I want to see, hey, who are the big mega influencers they use? Drop of a hat, everything populates and you download and you're good to go. And you have a feeler. Now, yeah, somebody was saying something. Let me see. What's it? Tax guidelines. Okay, yeah, we'll come to those. So any of the brand you guys want to quickly see? The job here is done really. But go ahead.
Z5.
Okay, so I need the handle. So Z5 Instagram. So then I see, okay, Z5, that's very simple. I put Z5, I do enter. And this is last 90 days only.
Okay.
And I hit the clock. And as I promised, instantly, Z5 has had 555 influencers with so many followers, with so many likes, comments. AI can tell this technology can tell this for you for any brand, as long as influencers follow those certain rules. A lot of nano influencers don't tend to follow these rules, so they sometimes drop out. But if they do, as per ASCII regulations or any such announcement on their post that they have a paid collaboration, we pick it up. Instantly, you can see how many micros, how many macros, how many mega influencers, breakdown by KPIs, instantly, and everything. You want the mega. Are you seeing? So we just, I've never done Z5 before, so I hope you're suitably satisfied. And you can
Yes.
actually download this, and it will download on my system. And this is the power of unleashing, saying, hey, listen, can I learn in the market? Can I see something? Can I do something? Can I know what's happening? And then devise. One way is to say, hey, last year my budget was 10 lakhs. Let's see how I make it big 15. But if my competitor is doing 30 lakhs or 5 lakhs, listen, maybe I don't need to increase my budget, or I need to double my budget. The point is, data provides you the rationale for decisions are yours, but the data is instantly available, which would have been a manual hack job by 3 analysts and 6 weeks to give you something that wouldn't make anywhere near this kind of granularity. You can do this for 2 brands as well. It's the same feature. We can compare 2 brands together and see what they have been doing in the last 90 days and so on. So I know I've done 100 kmph, but I had to cover a lot of ground just to say, this is the showstopper to say, there have been a lot of questions about influencer marketing. There's a lot of things people want to do. People want to build influencer to commerce. And we're saying, look, if you want to do, find the right people instantly, because you can make all the plans, but you will not have the right people. If you have the usual suspects or really bad influencers with bad audiences, making great content, you're not going very far and you're spending a lot of money. So how do you build efficiency? What this tool is doing, and I repeat it again, is the magic of bringing instant efficiency to your choices, and by going by brand rationale and not by emotions and subjectivity or how great the content of an influencer looks. Those should be your last filters. With that, I submit, and I think we can move into Q&As. Go ahead, Siddharth. I mean, somebody, whoever is monitoring, I'll leave that to you. To Koshi, if you're still around.
So this was really amazing, Kalyan. It's a really good product.
Thank you.
Just to understand, most of the things are based around engagements and likes and comments. Do you see moving more towards conversions over time, or is it last?
So every brand has given every partner on influencer marketing marching orders on performance. Get me there. And what we're saying is, now if you can build a CRM system that says when an influencer goes live, I give them unique codes, I give them UTMs to click and track and see how many sales were generated on my website or my store or on Amazon, and then evaluate that and then continue doing the choices. So it is moving there. The only thing this tool will do there is to say, hey, therefore, how do I pick that? I don't want to. So a lot of people are running their affiliate programs and trying to find influencers who will come and join the Nike, let's say, affiliate program and do blah and be part of their selling cycle. But the idea is here, we can now find these people with their phone numbers, call them, say, come on board. Here's the payment structure. Here's your incentive deal. These are the codes we'll run. We'll give you channel exclusivity, which means me as an influencer, I will always argue that how can you ask me to sell this product? Because you're selling it on Amazon at the same price. You're selling it on Nike at the same price. You're selling it everywhere, man. You give me a deal that doesn't exist on a particular day. then I can take some salience to say, hey, listen, I'll be able to sell that. Otherwise, I'm fighting many other people with my audiences. Somebody may see my post about this particular shampoo, and then they'll go and buy it on Amazon whenever they want. I may have done the job of triggering that sale, but I will get zero attribution. So a lot of questions, a lot of people are building that tech. We're saying Klug Tech can help you identify those right people who are most likely to succeed. And I can do a live demo of that as well to say, if you are a particular brand with particular audience, just like I did, find the most relevant people, download them, call them, put a call center, set them onto your profile on your performance platform, get them to share content, track them, find them, and then build your own metrics, because there are no metrics that exist within Instagram that tells you how many sales. Only thing you can get is clicks and likes, but you don't know, even that resides with each partner. So the system has to be built, and each category has a very different. An influencer can sell a gizmo for a day or a shoe for 3 days, but she may be able to sell 1/3 of the number of shampoos because, she's like, hey, it's a shampoo, but I was running a deal on a shoe. So many variables. It needs honest marketing plus science reductiveness to say, how do we find the right attribution? I'm sorry if I'm giving very heavy answers, just stop me at some point. Or if it's making sense, good on you.
That was helpful. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, some questions. Sorry. Ouch. Okay. Demo dikhao bhai. Okay, that's done. Questions. I'll take questions.
Yeah, Kalyan, hi, Rishi again.
Hi,
One
Rishi.
quick question from my side. Do you plan to add the capability to contact or communicate to particular influencers or the chosen influencers via this platform anytime in the near future?
Yes, actually, it's already been enabled, and you will be able to do that very soon. In fact, Vaibhav, you want to chip in on that?
Yes, actually, we are working on our own in-house CRM system where we can get in touch with the influencer, do negotiate, and we can provide them editing feature, and where we can track their performance in terms of clicks and other tracking as well.
Yeah. So Vaibhav is, I'd like to introduce Vaibhav is my co-founder and really the brain and muscle behind Klug Tech. So yeah, we're both open for questions.
Yeah, that would have been my next question. I think you partially answered that already about negotiations and the commercials. Will that be also be handled by Klug platform?
Yes, so it can be handled, but the thing is, a platform so it's like I can say things on an email that I wouldn't be able to say to you in person, and that goes with negotiation. So yeah, you're picking up a phone and negotiating and bringing a human context normally yields a far better result than a machine. Having said that, enabling it is one thing, getting real outcomes is where we've said that, look, the technology can do everything that you ask it to do, but it can't be you. It can't be the person that Rishi might say, hey Kalyan, listen, इस बार पैसे नहीं है, इतने में कर देना. So, वो नहीं होगा. Having said that, the machine will attempt to do a very cold conversation. Look, this is a budget, will you take it? Otherwise, we have 3 other people lined up.
01.
What was that? Yeah. Who's next?
So I wanted to know, like, can we currently monitor click-through rates on the sponsored links that your influencers had?
So the only way to, so if you do a sponsored link, yes, the short answer is you can do it if you integrate it into your reporting. So suppose you're putting a UTM on a sponsored link, then the data will reside with the UTM creator, not with the platform, unless you integrate that data back. But there's no way for me to know that performance. And that's also behind a wall, right? So it can be engineered if it's a paid marketing thing where we can track and do that. So that's what the kind of integration we're talking about. Let's say we become a partner, this tool becomes a partner, then it can track, but then frankly, you can track it too, but at least you'll have a unified communication that this post was linked to this UTM that had this kind of clicks, and how many add to carts, how many clicks, how many landings, how many add to carts, how many purchases, and you can do the life cycle management through your end. But that integration can be built by us also. We're planning that. But the short answer is we will be working with partners who are already doing that, and we will be building that data as we speak, and also be building a quotient for all influencers going forward. The more people adopt this, that who's more likely to succeed in terms of selling beyond the surrogates of quality of audience.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anybody else?
Again, to my initial question, like, do you have any perspective on live commerce and like how it might play out in India?
So, see, there's a lot of talk about it in the live commerce. So there are two commerce. One is what you're talking about is live commerce. Most of the work that's being put to right now, and in fact, a lot of the performance on commerce is being put on more on YouTube. A lot of it is also being planned on Instagram. Weber, if you have any inputs, you can throw it in. But right now, live commerce, it's conversation. And while you're trying to replicate the TV models of the digital world to say, hey, influencers will do that, it's a lot of WIP. Most of the brand's money is going into say, hey, can I go into influencer marketing as usual? Plus, can I now look at influencers trying to be held accountable more like affiliates? But live commerce, I really don't have an answer, because it doesn't seem to be high on agenda, and some people will try it. Suddenly someone will succeed, and then it may have a buzz in creation, but I'm not I don't have a clear answer on that. Weber, if you want to weigh in, feel free to say something.
No, I don't have any. Like,
good, we are on the same
input, yeah.
Sorry, couldn't help you with that. Looks like there are no more questions about feel free, but here's a fun.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, I'm Shal Mundra. So I have a quick question. I have invested in a startup, and they are targeting a very, very specific audience, and they want to build market in US.
Right.
They have a global market, but they want to start with US. Basically, they have a SaaS platform which can help professional photographers to basically select, edit, and share photographs. Okay. So
fantastic. So you've given me a very go ahead.
So the question is, it's a startup. It's not a big company. So one, can your platform help them, a platform stroke company, to reach the potential target audience? Number one. Number two is, can they afford you? So can a startup afford you?
So my answer to both is yes.
Okay. Great.
So you said I want professional photographers. So I said, okay, I put photographer. Then I said, if any of them are online, out of 14 million influencers in the US plus on Instagram, there are 138,000 people who have put in their bio that they are a professional or semi-professional photographer or a wannabe photographer. Okay, and now you might say, listen, that startup needs to pick up the phone and call them or be able to email them. So how many people's contacts do you have out of these? And you can start downloading. So you tell me you decide to spend X, you get X number of credits. So this is really designed actually for small businesses as well. I don't want to be an institutional buyer and sell 10,000 things. As we're going global, and this is, we're already going to go live in terms of providing data to our partners in 22 countries. Because we have such granular data on scale, on steroids, for such a large set of countries globally. So for one credit, like I said, this would be anything between $2 to $3, depending on that thing. I can give you data for 25 people. You select 25 people here and export with their phone numbers and email IDs, and you can call them and have your SaaS discussion. I hope I sort of instantly answered.
Yeah. I think one of the techniques they are using is basically they need to demo their product, so they have videos and they have test marketed the product in India. It works, so they have been doing basically setting up Zoom calls like this to explain the product to the photographers and get them to subscribe to the platform.
So you could do many things. So now asking,
Yeah.
I'm saying, have you got your audience? Instantly, yes.
Yes.
Have you got the contact details? Instantly, yes. Now you can put them onto your CRM platform and say, I'll email them out, I'll SMS them, I'll call them. I'll set up a common demo session for efficiency of time and effort and sales.
Yeah.
And say, hey, listen, everybody who comes here gets 1 year, half years, 1 month free. So that's the sales cycle.
Yeah.
I'm saying the problem that you need is who to talk to. You're not going to run an ad. You're not going to have to find people. I'm saying I'll give you people who are influencers with blue ticks or otherwise who are professionally claiming to be photographers. And you say that, look, I don't want the small ones. I only want the big ones. So anyone with at least 100K followers only I want. And it'll go to 500 people. Far more manageable. And I have their numbers and email IDs. Go crazy.
But these are like, the top guys, the description is NFT blockchain analyst.
But he's also mentioned photographer in his biography.
Yeah.
So sorry, let me just.
So how do we identify?
So he's an LA photographer. He is a photographer. He's also a thing. He's going with the trend. But there you go. That's his actual, there's the other profile, and he's got 1 million things. So he works with her. Either which way, you've got the people with 100% accuracy to be speaking to the right decision maker or somebody. And of course, that one is he's selling OnlyFans page. So I'm happy for him.
Okay.
So he's an affiliate really for her. So, you will get a few errors, but let me just say the ballpark is coming to 10 rupees per contact per profile.
Yeah.
That is far more efficient than any ad you will be able to run on Instagram or YouTube to find people and they bring the likelihood of a photographer and all of that. This is sharp shooting. In fact, it's far sharper for you than it would be for some other brand because this is the audience you're looking for.
So I'll need your contact details to put you in touch with the founder of that company.
Sure. What I'll do is I'll share my email